Grayson. Yeah, it's a little bit you mentioned. Good afternoon and welcome to the March 7th. Goodness gracious, March already. That's just amazing. Meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. I want to thank Danny Jarvie and David Brandenburg for getting food right now. Being our greeters, Eric Marcus for pretty much everything at the head table over there. Beth Handworker for setup and programs, Steve Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Swick for the great programs, and Jim Gundel for the website. Jamie just brought his food in. Now that's going to go for the invocation.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? Oh, Holy Creator, help us remember as we walk along life's pathways that whatever we might say, let it only be the truth. Whatever we think, say, or do, let it be fair for all concerned. Whatever steps we take in life, let us build goodwill and better friendships. Whatever goals we strive to accomplish, let them be beneficial to all concerned. We ask you to help us to never lose sight of our many blessings. Amen.
Thanks, sir. Well, Joe Jenkins isn't here, and I know that Eric's over there busily doing something. So, but we do have a few guests. I have some myself, so I'll go ahead and introduce those. I have Kim Beesey, Tina Marker. They both serve on the Blanchard Futures Board with me, and I think Kim is fast becoming a Rotary member here before long. So, and then we have one more that I have in the back, Hayden Ferguson. I'm going to let Hayden introduce himself. He comes from the general level.
Good afternoon. I'm Hayden Ferguson. I'm with Senator Bernie Moreno's office. Our role here on the state team is to assist anybody we can with any federal agencies we can, any issues. Feel free to call our office. We do work out of the Cincinnati office for the Southwest Ohio region. I'm glad to be here. Thank you all so much.
Welcome.
I have guests. I'm over here, Scott Hager, the president of Money Dog Trader. He's also the chair of the Dayton Chamber Member Outreach Committee. Sits on their legislative committee as well. Also, I'll say it's one proud Beavercreek alumni. He's also briefly promoted to dad of 3.
Well, yes, congratulations. Welcome. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to have an abbreviated Sergeant Arms report today, so I'm going to ask Chris to come up and do his thing. Brief moment. It's a busy day today.
Thank you, Don. Go ahead and say I am a big dum-dum when it comes to how political things work, but I did watch this week that the sergeant at arms can kick people out for getting a little crazy. So the applause needs to come down a little bit. For next week, I'm kicking people out. So as Don alluded to, this is going to be a very quick sergeant at arms. So hello again, all of our guests, future Rotarians, speakers, long-term visitors. Welcome again to the March 7th meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. And also happy Employee Appreciation Day. And for those of you who are working today, I hope that your employer gives you more than just wear jeans to work day or a pizza party day, unless that is pineapple pizza, of course. Moving on to birthdays and anniversaries for next week. That concludes next week's birthdays and anniversaries. Some good things that happened this day on history. The guy that created the blueprint was born. That guy that created a couple delicious things like the delicious apple and russet potato was born. Also, this would ring a bell. Alexander Graham Bell received the first U.S. patent for the telephone. Also, anyone who is not a fan of AT&T can blame him because 9 years later, he co-founded AT&T. Moving on to some things to celebrate since we have no birthdays or anniversaries. Tomorrow, 2 big international days. We got International Women's Day and not to be outdone by International Fanny Pack Day. Sunday is National Dry Shampoo Day, which does not make sense to me, but I'll say that's something I don't have to worry about. It's also Sunday's National Barbie Day, Monday, and National Mario Day. Tuesday's a big day for Shannon. We've got World Plumbing Day and Worship of Tools Day. Also not for Shannon, National Promposal Day. So Wednesday, we have Working Moms Day. It's also National Girl Scout Day, which seems like it has been every day this week for the last 3 weeks. How many times I have been harassed by those little girls and their mom and their shady sale tickets that always makes me buy those Samoas and tagalongs. Moving on to Thursday, we have National Canine Veterans Day. Shout out to Beavercreek's finest Hans and the late great DJ. And DEI is still alive and well because Barley's BFF has a day on Thursday, as it is National Kin Day. Some things to do next week. Community Conversations with City Council is back on Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. at Rapino Plaza. Beavercreek City Schools on Thursday will have their third 90-minute community forum for those who want to learn all about the May 6th bond issue at Valley Elementary from 6 to 7:30. Going to fly through a lot of Beavercreek student awesomeness. Junior Marie Milburn won $500 for her painting that she entered into the 4th annual gym art contest for suicide awareness. Beavercreek Robotics has 13 teams that qualify for the state championship out of 243 competing teams. They currently hold the 3 spots in the top 10 for skills, ranking 4th, 7th, and 10th. This was a cool one. Beavercreek was named District of the Year by the Adaptive Sports Ohio Association, and this is a little quote from them. They have fully embraced wheelchair basketball programs since officially adopting it as a school sport. Each home game, the significant community support and involvement is evident as spectators fill the bleachers. Their coaching staff prioritize their athletes with disabilities, and their programs continue growth as a key factor this year, and the launch of a pilot JV program as well. They definitely travel far for competition and show up ready to play. Obviously, our most recent guest, or one of our most recent guests, is a big part to deal with that as they again won the 2025 District of the Year award. Men's varsity basketball pulled up a huge upset to win the district championship, but unfortunately that magic did not continue in the next round. But senior Isaiah Michael Williams was named to All Southwest Ohio second team. 6th grade girls basketball team, they had one team going 30-1 for the season, finishing as Division I champs. The other team going 25-5, finishing as Division III champs. To continue with winning, middle school show choir entourage brought home best choreography, best vocals, and a thing called Middle School Grand Champion this past weekend. If anyone needs a graphic designer, there is a junior named Emma Miller who recently won the Digital Design and Development Program for her Graphic Media Alliance Print, or at the Graphic Media Alliance Print Excellence Awards for her design work. And if that wasn't awesome enough, the boys bowling coach, Bob Bobbitt, was named GWAC Bowling Coach of the Year. Varsity gymnastics, the girls took 10th in state championship, and that was the first time they ever been back to the state championship since 1994. Men's wrestling, we had a wrestler take 5th at district and qualify for state. The girls bowling team finished 4th out of 24 teams at districts and then moved on to state championship. And now we'll fly through today's spines, but I do need to backtrack real quick. Does anyone remember what AT&T stands for?
American Telegraph.
All right, for those of you who did not answer, that'll be $1. If you're not wearing your badge, that's $1. If you were late and not calling out names, that's $1. If you are old enough to have missed out on the Hallmark-like event called Promposal, that is $1. And if you have no idea what that is, consider yourself lucky, because that'll also be $2. And if you have been hustling and buying Girl Scout cookies when you didn't want to, that's $1. And here's a pro tip: if you take all the cash that you had on hand for Happy Bucks, when you walk out that door, if you run into them, you can honestly tell them you do not have any money for Girl Scout cookies. Right, with that being said, Don, Happy Bucks.
Thank you, Chris. And as he said, it's Happy Bucks. Beth.
I forgot to mention Kenzie is here. She's not a coworker. She's this her 3rd time visiting, and she's been looking to join. So she's here as a guest, and I forgot.
You're really good.
And
Catch it.
then I have a note from, I talked about this, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, about one of the coworkers of mine. Her daughter received a dictionary and wrote a letter, and she really wanted to make sure that everybody got it. So I'm asking around so you can read her. Thank you. It's all. Thank you.
Here,
I never got.
Well, because
I picked up my Girl Scout cookies at bowling last week. And now I have in my freezer frozen Thin Mints that are now vintage.
But before I forget, we do have another guest. Dr. Morales has joined us, so. Anybody else? Brian,
I just want to recognize our assistant chief for the fire department, John Brooks, retired on Tuesday. John, 35 years with the Beavercreek County Fire Department, full-time firefighter, and then 5 years additional to that. Over 40 years of full-time experience in the fire service. So I just want to kudos and much well deserved retirement and honors.
he was responsible for a lot of things in the park. Right, we wouldn't have an EMS out there to wait for him. Anyone else have any books?
Sure, I've got some. We've got some thank you letters from passing out the books and dictionaries at Parkwood. Katie and I had the pleasure of going. And yeah, thanks, Brian. He dropped these off today. Pretty sweet.
Anyone else? I'll shout out.
So this is kind of like a happy informational buck. I like everybody to get everything from the source instead of from someplace else. Monday, I go in for surgery. They're gonna remove a lump out of my throat. I'm excited that they're gonna be able to do that with a robot, and I should be in and out with equipment. So
Good luck, is that?
what?
When do you go in?
Monday.
Okay,
Yeah. So keep me in your thoughts and prayers.
what time?
I gotta be there at 6, I think 7 o'clock is surgery, I think.
Right, that'll be, my wife is having her surgery at the same time. So. Yeah. So shoot me down some Friday. Anyone else? Well, since Brian's name was, let's call Brian up here now to take care of this. Little piece of business, it's always a pleasure to do when you're the Rotary president, or you get a new member in. Yeah. All right, we're going.
Well, my fellow Rotarians, I'm pleased to introduce another new member to our club. We say new member, but he's been hanging out for a little while anyway. Josh Ison, please stand and be recognized. Josh is a Beavercreek guy, born and raised here, graduated from Beavercreek in 1997. He was a wrestler at Beavercreek High School. He earned his undergrad at the University of Dayton in mechanical engineering, and then on to Carnegie Mellon for a master's in mechanical engineering. He worked for a base contractor using his degree in radar and detection technology. He then worked at Dayton Superior and did a lot of, he called it awesome traveling while he was there. And then Dayton Superior was bought out and he was cast aside.
Oh, this is awesome.
There's no nice way to put that. I mean, is there?
First time I got to negotiate a severance package.
Okay, well, he married an RN in 2009, and after that layoff, they decided to start their own home healthcare business. On April Fool's Day, good day to start a new business. They started and opened Align Home Health. Since then, they've added Beavercreek's only adult daycare facility and subsequently opened a child care and skilled nursing location. He was working 50, 60 hours a week, and they decided, maybe his wife decided for him, that too much work, not enough time, spending in the community and extra hours. So they have decided to take those extra hours and invest in the community. He volunteers at BSA and at the senior center. And after talking with Denny Jarry, he's come here. So thank you, Denny. Josh enjoys the outdoors, woodworking, travel, and I love the way he put this. He plays what he calls campfire guitar. You have to ask him what that means, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to do a concert for us. When I asked about the coolest place he'd ever been, he answered without hesitation, Belgium. He mentioned chocolate and beer. There you go. He is married to Katie, and they have 3 children, Lily, Jonathan, and Jamie. Denny is his Rotary sponsor, and Denny, you'll be coming up to pin him in case you were wondering. Where'd he go? Okay, yeah, good. Josh, you may be seated. You will know today you've become associated with one of the largest, most prestigious service clubs in the world. We're so pleased you've chosen to join us. You know, the Beavercreek Rotary, we're fortunate to have leaders in Beavercreek business, finance, education, government, law enforcement, healthcare, church, and military. People who can and do make a difference. Make the Beavercreek Rotary their club of choice. And we have the power and energy to make a positive impact in our community. So think back for a moment. Why did you join Rotary? Now think about your membership and how it has benefited you over the years. The fantastic people you've met, becomes friends with, maybe even a spouse or two. I only have one spouse. Well, I understand that, but I think we have a couple Rotary couples. And of course, you know, the warm feelings you get from delivering Christmas packs. Dictionary, look at the awesome thank you letters we received. And of course, camaraderie around our tables on Friday. As a new member, imagine the opportunities for involvement, regional, international opportunities as well. You will have the opportunity to serve on our board, chair a committee, and develop leadership and organizational skills. Now, the message of Rotary is very simple. It is to encourage and foster the ideal of service. Our motto, service above self. Please personalize this in your own life. You will discover how well our club follows this motto, how well we endow the community with our appeals to you for your personal focus. We expect that you'll share your talents with the club and get involved, as you already have. Membership in Rotary is an honor and a privilege. Please treat it with respect and dignity. Wear your Rotary pin everywhere with pride. The motto of Rotary, again, service above self. You will make this motto part of your daily life. Rotarians are leaders. They have the desire to improve our community and the world around us. So at this time, Josh Eisen, please come forward with Denny Jarvie. We have new magnetic pins, so to speak. So Denny, if you'll do the honors.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I see what he's trying to do. Trying to get the banner in. Yeah. Good thing you're magnetic. We need technology. We need a very strong magnet. Yeah. It's not falling off. Oh, so good. Yeah. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our new job. Welcome, sir. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you. I think you just credit and
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, Josh. We have one quick thing. Good to go. Yes. Must be all taking some people who paid some money where they want to say they want to. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's items. Your parents have some great all right. Take a drawing. It's 653-632. Captain from Seats of this goes Janet. It goes to our Christmas basket program, and we are looking for the 10 of clubs. Joker. Yeah. Shannon's probably gonna draw the Joker.
That sounds like you.
Oh, that
No, I'm not that one. 7 of hearts. One bottom. That's what's big. It's a. I'm sneaky.
All right, we need to do one quick bit of business here. Should come back in December, but President didn't pay attention. Thank you, David, for bringing this slide to. We have a slate of officers. This is the people who signed up so far. I would like to open the floor up to nominations. If there would be any nominations from the floor. Don't everybody jump at once.
I'm gonna make a motion, we close nomination.
Thank you. I second. Nomination and closed and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, since there's only one for each one, take a motion to appoint all those by acclamation.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve this slate by acclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So be your new board, David. All right. I'm gonna ask Beth Hamler to come up here now. She's busy doing a lot of things.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to introduce our speaker. We're very excited. We have Celeste with us. She's the new Executive Director of Violence Free Futures. So we're excited to hear what she has to share with us today. She has a background in social work and community advocacy. She's championed the rights of survivors and worked tirelessly to create safer spaces for those affected by violence. Celeste brings 8 years of experience from her tenure at Violence Free Futures. Her journey began as an intern and progressed through various roles, including shelter support, crisis intervention specialist, safe house, case coordinator, sorry, I lost my train, prevention coordinator, and sexual assault response coordinator. Her commitment to empowering individuals and families has brought hope and healing to many in the Greene County area. Welcome, Celeste.
All right.
Well, while she gets me set up, I'll just say, I was going to say good morning, but I suppose we're in afternoon now. Thank you so much for having me join you today. Mayor, thank you for inviting me. I am grateful to be here and thinking, hearing the values of the people in this room just made me think back and reflect on the values that have kind of brought me to this position. And really, as I found my way, I kind of joked that I have stumbled my way into multiple positions at the organization and just really I had the opportunity to sit with some others that work in the domestic and sexual violence field, and we kind of joked that wherever you start in your career, if you at some point land with domestic and sexual violence survivors and working alongside them, that's where you stay, because it's a really hard group of individuals to meet and to not kind of fall in love with, and to catch that passion and make sure that they are not forgotten in our society. And so those are some of the reasons that I've continued to stay with when I started Family Violence Prevention Center, but Violence Free Futures. Thank you so much. So what I would like to do today is just share a little bit about our organization. I could take some time to talk to you about what domestic violence is, what are some of the concerns that we see in the community, but I want to really make sure that you know and understand what we are able to provide to the community, so that if you I shared with a group of people last night that sometimes we get the question, or people will call our hotline office and wonder, maybe I'm calling too soon. I don't really know how I should be intervening in this situation. I don't really know if this is the right question for you all. It is absolutely okay to reach out to us and say, hey, I'm concerned about this person. Do you have resources maybe that I could take back to them? So I would to just share with you some of the resources that we do have. If you don't mind them, let's just step up here so I can be looking through this with you. So this is what we call our admin and safe housing campus. And so we're there off of Bellbrook Avenue, and I'll share in a little bit. We do have an outreach campus now as well. Here we have our admin staff and then a 32-bed shelter. And so I'll share a little bit more about that, but this is our kind of roadmap through our services. Our mission is to end family, domestic, sexual violence and its impact in Greene County through intervention, prevention, and community programs and safe housing. Our hope is to, or sorry, our vision is to offer hope and healing for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And then our core values there of respect, integrity, compassion, empathy, and inclusion. This picture that I have added onto there is actually just from this past Tuesday. I had to make sure that I got it onto this slide and updated the picture. We had the opportunity to do a staff retreat. And so we went out to the Clifton Lodge Reserve, something like that. It's a really nice little space out in Clifton. We had a really great day, some team bonding, and actually Karen Polana, I believe is how you say her last name, that will be joining you all, came and spoke to us then. We loved her, so definitely make sure you get to meet her. So where does the conversation typically start? For a survivor to start engaging with our services, typically they're going to start by reaching out to our crisis and support line. We do have people answering the phones 24/7. There are staff that are also working in our shelter and offering support to survivors. So we have our 24/7 crisis line. We do also have texting capabilities. Our president is really working on, our board president is really working on how do we get those two numbers combined. So if anybody has wisdom for us to make that a little bit easier capacity, we do have those, both of options. Texting, we found, has really become a valuable asset to survivors that maybe can't pick up the phone and call, if they maybe don't often find themselves alone, or they can talk freely. Sometimes texting is something they're able to get away with, maybe when the abusive partner is sleeping or something like that. So texting has been actually very critical for a number of our survivors. Another way that someone might land in our services is through our Divert program. So it's I always have to think about this because we only ever call it Divert, but the Domestic Violence Emergency Response Team. So we have a partner where there is a senior detective that holds office space in our offices alongside one of our advocates. And if there is an active domestic violence call when they are on shift together, then they will respond to the scene of that. The detective will make sure it's safe for her to come out. He'll address the perpetrator, and she is there to offer support and resources to the victim. Then we do follow-up calls, and so they'll probably within 24 to 48 hours, she'll reach out to them again and say, hey, I know there was kind of a lot going on when we met yesterday. I'd like to just share with you again the resources, any questions that have come up for you, anything that you need. She'll offer some support through that conversation. And then we do also follow up at 6 weeks to check in on, okay, now is it a good time? And for some people, when it's in the heat of the moment, when there's an immediate crisis in their life, a fresh trauma, they're not ready to talk about it. Now, 6 weeks, don't get me wrong in saying that their trauma has passed at that point, that they're still working through some things. But maybe at 6 weeks, they're able to say, yeah, things have quieted down a little. You know what, could you tell me a little bit more about your counseling services? And I personally had the opportunity to do counseling with someone that came to our agency this direction. Sometimes these survivors, when we are able to step in right in that moment and have a serious conversation, to say, I'm really worried about you. This was concerning. Sometimes people can downplay their experience of domestic violence. When there's a police officer, a detective in your front yard, and you're standing there talking to an advocate, we have the opportunity to really gently, hopefully lovingly say, I'm worried. I'm worried that we're here right now having this conversation. And so it can be a really good point of leverage. Doesn't sound like the most, maybe the word that I want, but gives potentially some good leverage to have some conversations about, really, is this what you want? What are some of the things that are keeping you here in this relationship? If we knocked down those barriers, would you be here still? And we've been able to help some people out of those relationships. Some of the other work that we do is prevention, and I think we have a really strong prevention program. This is when maybe you'll notice by the end of my presentation, when somebody gives me 5 minutes, I go, oh man, how do I talk about all of the good things that are happening here? So I appreciate the 30 minutes that you have with me. But our prevention work is pretty near and dear to my heart. That is the first full-time position I had with the agency, was doing our prevention work. We go into the middle schools and high schools. We have 7 different school districts here in Greene County. We go into each of the middle schools and high schools. Some of those have They rotate their health classes on quarters, some of them on trimesters, some of them on each semester they'll rotate. And so we'll go, if a school has 4 different health classes that they're rotating through, we'll be in that middle school 4 times within a given year to make sure that we're interacting with as many students as we can. We typically see over 3,000 of the Greene County students. Some of the other programs that maybe outside of the public schools, we try to engage with some of the other private schools when we have the time and capacity for it. Maybe at a school assembly or something, we'll do a shorter presentation. But then also the Educational Service Center out in Beavercreek has their alternative school, and we go out and engage with their youth there as well. So when we go into, just to give a little bit of what that picture looks like, when we go into a middle school class, we do a 3-day presentation to talk through teen dating violence and what are some healthy relationship norms, what are some unhealthy things that maybe are common. We talk about this phrase a lot with you. Yeah, that's something you see all the time. Well, that's what everybody does, right? It's kind of the phrase that we hear, well, just because everybody's doing it, is that what we want to be doing? And is that what we want our relationships to look like? So we kind of challenge some of those ideas. And then in high school classes, we are there for 4 days. We also have a great relationship with our juvenile courts. And so we're in, maybe I added an extra slide for us, so I almost got ahead of myself, but I added this to make sure I highlighted the work that we're doing. So there's a little bit of a scale. We have diversion groups that we run, and that would be youth that are at lesser risk. Maybe even some of the youth that end up in those groups might just be there because of truancy issues. But so we're recognizing, well, there's something in your life that's causing you to be truant from school. So let's engage with you and talk about what our health need. Even some of that, we take it a step further with Step Up is a program that really looks at what are our choices? How do we we're not just powerless to be knocked around by the things that life is throwing at us, but what are we inputting to those life choices as well, and where that takes us. Then we take that to detention. Those might be youth that are detained briefly. It's not going to be a very long stay, but they are there briefly. I feel like I have a little bit of pressure commenting on this with Sandy in the room, but we love you. And then we do have rehabilitation that the Miami Valley Juvenile Rehabilitation Center that is held out there. We host group weekly there as well. And so those are going to be felony offending youth. So we kind of have the full spectrum to really challenge what are maybe some experiences you have in your life already, but now you're also causing a little bit of maybe that stress and pain in somebody else's life. And so it is a little bit where we're challenging some of those choices. And then for our intervention programs that we have, we do offer a number of groups to really, there's a lot of life change that has to happen when someone is leaving an abusive relationship. So we have some groups like Healthy Homes is going to say, okay, you're coming out of a home that was built on dysfunction, abuse, manipulation, and sometimes a survivor of domestic violence is really that survival technique. You learn to play the game of manipulation sometimes, and we don't fault them for that. That is how they're surviving in this. And so sometimes then they need to talk about, like, what is something that is normal? What can you expect from a healthy relationship? Because sometimes healthy feels really uncomfortable to survivors. It feels false or artificial. And so then someone treating them well, speaking to them kindly, respectfully, they're going, I don't know what angle you're trying to, come at me from, but I feel skeptical of it. And so learning that peace can be okay, the calm before a storm, that's where it just a really good way to explain the calm before the storm that many survivors experience in an abusive relationship. They didn't take it as calm, right? That's not safe to a survivor of domestic violence. When there's calm, the storm is coming and they know to be on guard. So sometimes when we have a survivor come into shelter, they're going, things are calm and I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you're the person that's gonna do me wrong, but there's a shoe that's coming. And so working through some of those fears as well. We do that in our group setting. We do have case management, and really our case management is looking at, we want people to gain their independence. We don't want financial or housing reasons to be what pulls them back into an abusive relationship. Unfortunately, it can sometimes be what pulls somebody back in. It was about, I've had somebody say this word for word to me of, Yeah, I mean, I know, and don't get me wrong, I know the things I went through weren't okay in that relationship. But I had a, 5-bedroom home, multiple bathrooms. I had 4 cars in my 2-car garage and in my driveway. Like I guess that's the price that I'll pay. And that was one of the times she left our shelter and went to return to the abusive relationship. And she came back a little bit later and we continued to work with her because we know, unfortunately, a survivor will leave an abusive relationship 7 times. They'll maybe come to our shelter, go back to that abusive person, and they might do that 7 times, and that spans over 8 years. And so that is some of the challenge of our work, is seeing that we want to let people, we're going to work with them through counseling and case management to give them some independence, but that's a long process that I probably can't do it justice in this talk to really walk through what the challenges can be. But there's a lot to that question of why doesn't somebody just leave? It's not a great question if you haven't heard that challenged a little bit. I've also heard it put, well, why didn't that person stop? Right? We flipped it instead of asking the victim, flipping that back and going, okay, but that person in their life repeatedly said they were going to stop, repeatedly said, I'm going to get a grip on my anger, I'm going to get it, whatever it's going to be. Hey, maybe we can try and work on this. If you can be less irritating, then we can, things will maybe quiet down and we'll be okay. There's a lot that we have to work through with survivors, and we try and just walk that road alongside them, not pulling them along with us, but trying to encourage from shoulder to shoulder. I do want to also mention, so these are the groups, case management and counseling that we offer. And I also want to mention that we have counseling all the way down. We say about 3.5, depending on the 3.5-year-old. Is when we would typically start counseling, but we do have supportive services for children even younger than that. We have a child development specialist on staff in our shelter for both in-shelter and outreach clients, but then we have our counseling all the way up through adults. And so we have specific youth counselors. We have one right now that is phenomenal with teens. And so she's getting ready to finish up her internship with us. And I'm very sad. And Becca's shaking her head because she knows who I'm talking about. But she's just so good with youth. And that can be a really hard, I'll be honest, that I had a little bit of time counseling youth. Oh, maybe give me the college age is a little bit more my comfortability. But so that's for victims and the services that we have for them intervention wise. I do want to mention that we have DVIP, which is our domestic violence intervention program. And so we do have a batterers intervention group. It runs for 15 weeks. These are going to be individuals that have been charged with domestic violence. And really what we say in the agreement we have within the court system is domestic violence is not the same thing as an anger management problem. It's a control and manipulation issue. It's that person trying to, they might say it's an anger issue, but typically it's because that person is really at its core. They don't like, they're not getting their way. Kind of jokingly call it grown-up temper tantrums. They get told no, where somebody tries to, exert power over them and they don't like it. But in our batterers intervention program, we have had this for probably 2 decades now. And Sherry Dixon, if you're familiar with her, she's our clinical director. She ran this program for many years and has built it up to be quite a successful program. We have seen people, I get this question sometimes, can people change? And if somebody is in a relationship with somebody being abusive, my answer is no. Let's walk away first, and then we can maybe talk about what that person needs. But we have seen success stories where somebody has been able to go, I think I got something wrong. I think the examples that were shown to me when I was younger, I don't think they actually had it figured out. And we do have to challenge. Just about 100% of the victims that the batterers that we see in batterers intervention group are also victims, though. They have at some point in their life been hurt by someone bottled relationships rather poorly, to simplify it. So we do see change. I do know that there is an individual that was just ordered to come and join our group, and I think this is round 5 for them of a 15-week group. So our staff is a little familiar with them. So depending on who asks me the question and what their intent behind the question is, I'm careful to say that a person can change. But I do think we've had some great success stories over our time with this program. This is another program that's near and dear to my heart because for about 2 years, I was the agency's sexual assault response coordinator. And now it's been passed on to another wonderful counselor of ours. And so we have some opportunities with grant funding to have some flexibility in the work that we do advocacy wise for sexual violence. And that's part of what I love about it. We can sit and do some counseling work. We can also go out and we can host community events. We have relationships. Our county, if you're not familiar, and I'm sure all of you are, but we'll have people, I've been in Greene County all my life. So the colleges that we have in the area, don't all counties have as many colleges and universities? And the answer is apparently no. We are kind of university heavy here, which is great. But so we have relationships with the 5 colleges and universities here in Greene County. Cedarville and Antioch specifically, we hold office space on their campus. So if there's a student that specifically is looking for support services for sexual violence, there's not a transportation barrier that college students may have, and we're able to meet with them right there on campus. And those have been really successful programs. We typically partner with either the counseling center or the Title IX office on a campus to help run their prevention programs as well and awareness events. As a part of this, I don't want to skip over. We also respond if there is someone that experiences a sexual assault in Greene County in response to one of our local ERs, we will get a call and an advocate will meet them at the hospital. Any time, day or night. Sometimes those are fun calls at 3 a.m. that can happen. I know one of our advocates just spent 6 hours at the hospital with somebody, and that's maybe a little longer. Typically, if we're going to support someone at the hospital, they're waiting on their sexual assault exam to, collect that evidence, and we're going to try and walk them through what their rights are, what choices they have in that process. But we have a dear advocate that stayed. That person kept looking to her for support, and so she said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'm here. I won't move from this chair." In increasing access for survivors, we did in June of this past year open up an outreach campus. And so if you have not been able to see our outreach campus, it's 193 South Progress over in Xenia, right by Skyline, if you Coney Dog or whatever they're called. In this new building, it enabled us to have 9 new offices. We have a group / conference room that we're able to meet in, and a children's play area, actually both a little bit of indoor and outdoor space. It's a really gorgeous building. Really, if you would like to come scale, please call us and we'll walk you through it because we're very, very proud of the building and the work that has gone into it. Okay, I always have to share this piece. So if you've heard me speak, you've maybe heard this, but one of our counselors had a client that first came in for a session there and said, "My gosh, it's like I pay to go to counseling." And the message of that being, "I feel really valued here." And not that she wasn't speaking poorly of our admin campus and the shelter offices that we have there, but it does, I think, speak a lot to, we don't want to hide. There's some energy sometimes around domestic and sexual violence work and like, "Oh, that's very good that you do that over there." And people lower their voice sometimes when they talk to me about the work I do. And I go, "No, it's okay. It's okay. We're here." Sometimes some of that energy is concerned about safety, for domestic violence survivors, if people know where our buildings are. Both of our locations are disclosed. You can pull us up on Google and you'll be able to find both addresses. But what I really love about this building is just the visibility that it increases for us. And so that's part of me being here today, is also making sure that people know that we are here. And whether it's for yourself, someone talk a little bit about making sure you come to our events and get it connected with us in that way if you would like to.
Celeste, you might say about the security in these disclosed locations.
Yes, yeah, that is a good point. In both of our locations, so domestic violence as a field as a whole has gone from non-disclosed locations to disclosed. What people were finding were that everyone knew where these secret hidden locations were. So it almost brought this false sense of security that nobody can find me here. People know there are still some non-disclosed locations locally, And there's a bus stop across the street from it, and people will sit at that bus stop and watch who's coming in and out of the building. So part of the security measures that we take then at our safe house in particular, that one's a little bit more on lockdown, but our outreach campus does have a fence around it. And then we have 2 locked doors before you're gonna get even into our foyer. And then there's another set of locked doors. And so we do have to take those safety measures seriously. I know in my time there, sometimes my work stories didn't get passed along to my mother. The individual that was revving his truck at our back gate saying, "Hey, I'm gonna run this over on New Year's Day." It's just a funny date that stands out in my mind. Sometimes we do have those things, unfortunately, but XPD is a great partner. They're very sensitive to our calls, and so we appreciate how quickly they show up. At our safe housing campus, which is perfect because I'm talking about it now. So we do have a gate around the whole facility, and then we do have, even again, we have layers of locked doors that are bullet grade. And so even some of the windows that we have on our office with our hotline numbers and the staff that support in shelter, that is all at least bullet resistant in all of those spaces. So we do take our safety really seriously. In our safe housing, we have a 32-bed shelter that looks like 9 bedrooms. And so there is not maybe college style, depending on where you went. If you had to head down the hallway for community showers and those things, that's not what our shelter looks like. Each of the bedrooms has its own bathroom off of it with either a shower or a combination shower and bathtub. What that's typically going to look like for a survivor coming into the shelter is, if it's a single individual, they'll likely have some roommates. We try, if we can, to give people as much space, but we do typically run at capacity with about 32 individuals in our shelter. If it's a family with children, they're typically going to have their own room, especially depending on how many kids. Occasionally, depending on circumstances, we might have, if there's a parent and 1 child and another parent and 1 child, then they might share a room too. And we typically have, sometimes there can be conflict in the rooms, but we typically have a good relationship with our residents that we're able to kind of work through if there are roommate struggles or something. These are pictures of the rooms showing that these beds are actually going to be replaced at the end of the month. And I think we've been working on that project for about a year now. I know Debbie started it before I stepped into this role, but we're very excited to replace some of that. The bunk beds were starting to get a little bit worse for wear, and some of our clients will, I'm not climbing up on a bunk bed and I don't have a child, so this bed is of no use to us right now. So most of those get pulled down. Or again, kind of dorm room style, you can put them up for a bunk bed or pull them down to the floor. So most of them are on the floor. Talks a little bit about the counseling available on site. We do provide all meals. And so we have a health department approved commercial grade kitchen and all of those good things. We just had a new staff member come into that role actually as our kitchen advocate, which maybe makes it sound fancy, but really that's what it is. And I'm excited about this person joining our team because she understands it. She understands that she's not just serving food, but this is important for survivors, and really our survivors many times have joked. I don't know how your body and your life handles stress, but sometimes weight can maybe fluctuate when there is stress. A number of our clients have shared when they come into shelter, man, I've gained a lot of weight. They've started prioritizing eating. Their stress has lessened and they've felt safe enough to sit and, let me enjoy a meal. So if someone cooked all of my meals, I might eat all meals. So our clients are able to really enjoy that, save their money. They don't have to go out and buy food or anything like that, no groceries. Then we also have laundry units available on site. So really, when someone leaves an abusive relationship, the most dangerous part of a domestic violence relationship is when that person leaves. So we do have some residents that they'll come in and they won't leave. They'll hardly leave their room for the first 2 weeks. And they're kind of able to do that because we have everything taken care of there. Then even a staff member was just sharing with me today, I love seeing when people start slowly coming out of their room, slowly starting to have conversation with other people, slowly coming down and talking with staff. As you see them kind of start to breathe and relax a little bit more, okay, I think I can talk to you. I don't feel like I have to stay under a blanket and hiding, because that really is the feeling that some people are coming into shelter with. and maybe I'll just share, because sometimes this is a question. Common length of stay is about 4 months, give or take a few months. I know we have one resident that has had a lot of barriers to being able to get into her own housing, and so she stayed with us a little bit longer, but average is about 4 months. Really important part that people don't let me forget, and I shouldn't, because it's a really great part. Also, this is my puppy here, so I'll share. That's not one of the survivors, but that's when I got my puppy about 2 years ago. She's wild and everybody wants her, but starting in June of 2022, we were able to fully accept all pets. Doesn't have to be a service animal, doesn't have to be, oh, is it an emotional support pet? We don't care, because we know that someone having a pet and having to leave that pet behind in a domestic violence household, maybe with an abusive person, I won't share things, but there are some pretty horror stories that have come out of the people that we're working with. And so not just for the survivors that we're working with, but for staff too. We felt like, yeah, absolutely. Please bring that puppy along with you. I know that we've held a number, I think I have updated numbers on this slide, but we've had a number of pets in our shelter. Dogs and cats is the most common, but I've had a little tiny hermit crab that came and lived with us for a little while as well. And we have some really good relationships. Francis Kennels is a really good partner with us as well. If we try to designate a pet room versus a non-pet room. So if somebody does have pretty severe pet allergies, they don't have to come in feeling like, I can tell that pets have lived in this room before, that room is going to be clean for them. We do have a washer specifically dedicated for pet things too. If you have pets, you might know what I'm talking about as far as hair and all of that. But this has been a really significant part of our program and growth. Only about 15% of domestic violence shelters are pet friendly, and so we will get calls sometimes for out of county. We try to prioritize Greene County if someone's out of county and we don't have the space. We try to connect them to someone closer. But sometimes people will call and go, "No, I know they're like down the street from me, but my dog can't come." So that's something we've looked to kind of partner with other people too, and we're not gatekeeping that as a resource. We're saying, no, Red Rover gave us the funds to do this, and we'd love for other shelters to grow in that as well. We do have wonderful volunteers, and we have wonderful interns that partner with us as well. We couldn't do all of the work that we do. Dave comes over and he makes waffles for our survivors on Wednesday mornings, and so we love that. That is also someone that gets it and knows that it's not just a waffle that you're serving in person, but and also staff might get just as excited, if not more. But even sometimes we have needs of the picture on the right here, if you could see it, that's one of my coworkers' sons. God bless him. He has some really good skills, and I think he might regret his mom finding us. No, I'm kidding. He's wonderful and he loves us, but we do call him sometimes, or sometimes I'll text Heather, go, "Is that free?" We have a toilet that needs installed. And so he's come out to help us a number of times. So sometimes we have random needs like that, where if you have a skill that you feel like, I could be on call if there's an odd. We try to be very good with our finances. We try to be very good with what grant funders are willing to give us. A lot of grant funders aren't going to say, "Sure, I'll buy you a toilet," when you randomly need a toilet. I've written that plan a year ago. I didn't know a toilet was going to break, when I was writing that grant. So we try to not have to call somebody to come out, but also our counselors don't always have the time to pause a counseling session to come and install a toilet. So sometimes there are random asks like that we just look for people with skills in our community. If you know somebody that's going, "Hey, I have a friend that just retired." He's going, "Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself, so I'm building a deck now. We didn't really need a deck, but I'm making mine bigger." Right? So I said, "Okay, can I call you sometime when I have a need?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely." So if you or someone maybe has some of those skills, I'd love to get connected. Some of our other great volunteers. Actually, there's a number of staff children in these photos, but these are also some Greenview students that came over to volunteer with us. Then we do have fundraising and awareness events. And so we are grant funded. We have about 20 different grants, either federal, state, foundation grants that we might work with, but We also have to do fundraising because that doesn't cover all of the need. And so we do try and make it as fun as we can. We have a coworker that always says, fundraisers are fun, and that's the very first part of the word. And so we do try and make them a really great evening. If you have not responded and if you haven't seen an invite, I do have a couple invites with me, but we have our spring fling coming up on April 11th. Will be a really great time there. And then we also on April 26th have our superhero 5K. It's for child abuse prevention and elimination. I did add on there if you would really like to get a t-shirt, then the deadline for that registration is March 26th. So coming up here soon. Quick. I did want to share briefly, if I didn't end up adding a slide for her, but I wanted to maybe. Oh, we're almost out of time. Never mind. I'll share really briefly. That's why I didn't add a slide, because I said, Celeste, you talk too much, so you're not going to have time to share. But really quickly, we have a survivor just that kind of showcases all of the services that we offer. She actually came from a couple of counties away. Really dangerous situation. I mean, she was literally being kept. If you came to our candlelight vigil, she spoke and gave a phenomenal testimony to her experience, but she was literally being kept in a dirt floor basement. That's not every case that we have, but that was real for her. She escaped, was able to come here to Greene County because that felt that she had some sacred distance from this person. She brought her dog along with her because she was able to do that. And one thing that she has commented that I just love, as she was able to relax and take a deep breath. And we've heard this from a number of clients, like, oh my gosh, I slept last night. When they didn't have to be on edge, aware of what was happening in their household. She said, I slept last night. The dog caught on to what was happening and realized that they were both safe. The dog didn't have to act as her protector anymore and relaxed. And oh my gosh, this sweet, precious dog was friends with everybody then because he realized he didn't have to be on guard for mom anymore. She passed her STNA exam, and she is getting ready to head on to even more work. So we just kind of she's one that said, yes, you can share, not obviously sharing her name. She said, yep, you can celebrate. She's excited. She's moved into her own apartment now, and I kind of miss her saying hi every morning. So that's just some of the successes we've had recently. But thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know how long, if you had me on a clock, I don't know how long I talked, but I appreciate you listening.
Or thing to everybody. Lots of people go to Goodwill, they take stuff over there and they go, don't give me the receipt, I don't need it. You do, and you need to give them to Don Adams, because each of those that comes into the shelter is monetized. And Goodwill gives us credit cards, and the women that are moving out are able to take those credit cards and buy all the things they need for their apartments. So tell friends and family, collect those receipts and give them to one of us when you see us, or Don when you come to Rotary, because they're really important for our shelter as well.
Yeah, we would really appreciate that. We laugh sometimes. We go out into events where I go to my in-laws' house and they go, oh, here.
Yes.
And we have many staff that are familiar with the hand gesture from a friend bringing one. But yeah, we'd love that, where you could even mail it.
Great.
Thanks, Celeste. Yeah, I started volunteering with Violence Free Futures several years ago. I used to come out with pictures with Santa Claus for the kids. And then now I'm on the board. It's amazing what you can get into. It's free. We have book dedications, we always do. And actually, Beth, you do an amazing job when you pick these books. You really do. This one's called Be You. And Celeste has already signed it. It will end up in the library. Next week's speaker is Karen Colonna-Ring. She's a Chief Resilience Officer and a keynote speaker. I guess you'll find out what Chief Resilience Officer is next week. I know she just did the thing with Violence Free Future staff, which is great. Our greeters next week are not going to be the ones you saw on the screen. They're going to be Fran and Ed O'Shaughnessy. There will be a board meeting next week. After the meeting, there will be a foundation meeting today after the meeting. Anything else for the good of the close? Well, please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. I have a good week. Oh, by the way, one other thing, I have 3 seats at our table at Spring Fling for anybody from Rotary that wants to join us.
Take it easy, keep them under control.
I didn't realize this was.
Lots of it out there, walking into the kingdom, it's understanding. What's the Said,
I am so. I'm writing in this like that. Thanks. So it's a very it's quite. Writing. It's a new line of second jobs, to be honest. Good. Yeah. You make sure. Together, I'm there, people, it's right. So. Yeah. It's kind of become a which are real pretty thinner restaurants. Okay, but no ways to share. License something.